welcome everybody. This is the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode 8. I am your co-host Jason, and as always, as usual, I am joined by Will.
How's it going, y'all? It's good to be back. It's another wonderful day to be recording a podcast, right?
It's really chilled in here. It's awesome.
Yeah, we finally got the ACs working again, so it's a nice and comfortable environment to record a podcast.
It's not a sauna anymore.
No. I mean, like, especially with the weather. Oh, man, it's been hot the last couple of days. I think it's been, like, highs of 35 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
Really fucking hot. That's well over, like, 100, 110 Fahrenheit.
Really?
100 at least.
Yeah, 100 at least. So, yeah.
It's been a good week, though, in terms of, watching anime and all that. It's always a good week to watch anime.
Look, these next couple of weeks, I'm just going to be doing absolutely nothing other than watching anime and manga and just eating food.
I hate you.
Hey, school is over for the time being, maybe forever, so we'll see.
For me, summer is right around the corner if it hasn't already hit, which means that work is going to be busy as heck for me. It's going to be a lot of stuff, a lot of things to do, a lot of work, but I need to cool down and chill out at some point, right? So that's why I've got anime and manga waiting for me. Been reading and watching quite a bit.
Yeah. So why don't let's get into that? Let's get into what we've been watching. What have you been watching, Will?
So you know how in the last episode I was talking about how I like saroderes?
Oh yeah. What is sarodere?
Or like kitsukuderes, which is basically like people who are love interests, but they kind of just like demean you. They just bully you,
Tell you you're scum,
spit on you, and all that.
step on you.
So then you brought up to my attention that there is an anime airing this season, which is basically it's Nagatoro-san, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
don't toy with me.
Miss Nagatoro. I take back a few things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How much have you watched?
So I've only watched 2 episodes.
Okay.
Which I think is enough for me to not need to continue. Look, I feel like there are going to be people who will enjoy the show, or at least there are going to be people who try and normalize certain behaviors in the show. So I'm not going to be like, look, this is obviously a terrible thing. You should never check this out. Just go ahead and see it for yourself.
But
the show is
yeah,
about a central character, just very quiet, lonely young man, 16, going through high school. Just going about his day. He's doing his own thing. And then he comes across, a group of schoolgirls, they're in the year below him. So he's like a second year. They're like freshmen.
So senpai kohai relationship. Okay.
But because the fact that they're just like, mean, catty young girls, immediately they see, oh, what's this weird looking nerd sitting in the library? Like, we're having our fun here. What the fuck are you doing here?
But it's a library. You don't.
Oh, but they're taking it over.
Okay, okay, all right.
The librarian's not there, so the room's theirs. Or it's like, they don't care anymore, and they just do whatever the fuck you want. Just don't steal or destroy things. So he's sitting there doing his own things, reading his manga, doing his homework, and then they just start bullying him, teasing him. And it's like, what the fuck are you looking at? Oh, look at that. Oh, he's reading this ecchi manga. Oh, look. Oh, he's actually a pervert. He's a real pervert. You hentai. What are you doing here? And it's just like, you just see this guy is just like, he just slowly just degrade. He's just starting to descend down to madness, embarrassment. Just it was just like, wow, they're really like mentally breaking him down. And as the girls leave, one girl left behind, just her name. This one is Nagatoro-san, the titular character, and she's just like, oh, don't mind them, they're just mean. But you're also really fucking useless, right?
Oh, Jesus.
And then every now and then it's like, oh, so those manga, I like reading them too. Yeah, I like reading because like I feel like I really like relate with them. What do you mean relate with them? The central character is an alpha. He's a Chad. You're just a beta simp. Why do you? Oh wow, you think you actually can aspire to be like him? Ha ha ha! And you just see like mentally he's pissing his pants. He's just like, why am I going through this? Like, I don't need this at all. And then afterwards, it's like, but like, I can be your friend. We can talk about this manga if you want. That kind of thing. It's just like, what's this girl's deal? Why is she like being such a dick, but at the same time like relating to the things that I like? Clearly, like there's a commonality between the two.
So they're getting together, right?
I don't see how it's going to happen. I mean, there are people like there's a bunch of AniTubers and other people in like the YouTube and my anime list comments that talk about how it grows to be something that's a lot more beautiful, a lot more wholesome. But the way I'm seeing it is just straight up, just mental bullying, like just straight up public embarrassment, and I I can't help feel like this is just cringe. It's just very cringy
Right.
to watch.
So there is another anime series, and which is based on a manga. So don't toy with me. Miss Nagatoro is also based on a manga. But this other series that I'm referring to has also teasing elements to it. It is called Teasing Master Takagi-san.
Yeah, that one I've seen that for some reason on Netflix they have season 2. They don't have season 1.
Yes,
So I mean, like, I can see it's a lot more wholesome.
I read the manga and it's pretty cute actually. Like the teasing is not even close to what I consider bullying. It's more like shenanigans.
Yeah, if it was like that in Nagatoro-san, like I would have been much more down for it. And there are people who are saying like, oh, like, it's just helping to build character both physically and mentally. It's like,
Oh Jesus, that's abuse.
it's like, oh, it's like,
Victim.
don't worry, like pick yourself up, dust off your feet, and then just keep on going with your day, and you become stronger for it. What doesn't kill you, right? It's like that's not really what I feel like a manga or an anime should portray to people. I think you don't really want to see someone get bullied just so they can be a better person.
Right.
Yeah. So, look, Nagatoro-san, if you want to watch it, it's on Crunchyroll. Go ahead. I couldn't make it past currently episodes, like 2 episodes. Maybe I'll give it another chance, but at the moment I'm not dying to go back to it. But I will check out Takagi-san at some point.
Yeah, I can say that Takagi-san is way cuter.
A lot more comfy, right?
Very, very comfy actually. And the spin-off is comfy too. But yeah. So that's all you've been watching solo?
Well, I've also, I mean, outside of watching, I've also been reading.
Yeah.
A few mangas. So I've been catching up with a few manga series like Monster #8, Spy X Family. Those have always been good. I really like them.
And they're available on Jump Plus.
Yeah, that's where I've been reading most of my manga. If not, I'm just buying things off the platform itself. But this other one that's I think you're also aware of it too.
Yeah, I read it.
The manga is called Chojin X, which is written and drawn by the same mangaka who's done Tokyo Ghoul, So Yoshida. It's essentially just Tokyo Ghoul, but it's a bit different in that you have 2 main characters, one of which is calm and collected, the other one's a lot more aloof and daydreamy, and you have monsters called Chojin. So instead of ghouls, you have Chojin, and they're wreaking havoc in Japan. And then they have this central agency that's been dealing with these Chojin attacks, and it's giving me a lot of Tokyo Ghoul vibes. I think you've also mentioned that in terms of the pacing, in terms of the character developments, it feels very, very reminiscent of what we were going through in the first couple of chapters for Tokyo Ghoul, the original.
Right. So if it's the same in terms of pacing, it should take a while before it kind of reels you in.
Yeah.
But
I think only chapter 1's out right now.
Only chapter 1, but I think it's a double chapter.
Yeah. It's like, what, 50 pages?
No, it's
or even more than that.
It's more than that. It's like 70, 80. So it's like a double.
Yeah. So it's definitely like a good read, but at the same time, for me, like I'm a really big Tokyo Ghoul fan, as you probably have heard in our previous After Dark episode. I really like Yoshida, but that also means the expectations are high. So at the moment, it's hard to base things off of just one long chapter. So we'll wait until there's a few more chapters before I come to a decision on how I really feel about it. But at the moment, I'm okay with it.
I think it's too early to tell, but my first impression is,
Yeah. But that's just because you're not a diehard Yoshida Tokyo Ghoul fan.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I see things in a different light.
Or no light.
Darker, edgier.
No light, exactly. All right. So that's what you've been watching
Yeah.
and reading.
I mean, there's also other stuff like catching up with seasonals, the up to date manga and stuff. But I've already talked about those. No need to really dive deeper into them.
And we've done research towards our main discussion topic, which we will get into later.
Yep.
And
I've been reading and watching a lot of that stuff, so we'll get into that in the second half of the episode.
definitely. So again, it's gonna come to me with mystery animes. So
One of which I've already cracked, but the other
Yes.
ones you mentioned that I should be able to figure it out, but I haven't gotten around to guessing it. So let's just roll out with your first one.
So okay. First of all, I have been catching up on seasonals here and there, but then I decided to binge a couple of backlog shows especially because we have been discussing it like these seasonal shows already. So I don't feel like there's a huge need to like go week by week or just accumulate maybe 2 or 3 episodes and then binge those. So instead I've been binging a bunch of backlog stuff. So the first show that I watched, which you guessed correctly, is Dorohedoro.
Fantastic.
And I've been reading the manga as well. That continues after the anime.
Even better.
It's on Netflix. It is really good. I don't know what else to say. It's really wacky, almost psychedelic in a weird way.
It's basically almost like cyberpunk Mad Max.
Yes, it is. So it takes place in a place called the Hole, which is, for all intents and purposes, just a town, right? And then there are these sorcerers who are also humans that would show up in the Hole, and they have magical powers. But it's not the way that you think, because the way that they show the magical powers is using dust,
Black dust.
and the way that it's drawn is a very interesting way. It's not your typical anime art style. It's, how would you describe it?
It's just messy.
Yeah, it's messy, but it's good. It's good kind of messy.
In a way, it's just basically chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot going on and a lot of panels, and you can't help but just sit back and just really focus and take in what you're seeing.
And it is so violent.
It's great. But like at the same time, like the violence is there's so much of it that it's almost comedic at times.
Yes, 100%. It's
easier to digest that way. It's
Yeah.
easier to take in because it's not just for the sake of gore and violence, just upping up the ante every single panel.
originally I was really not feeling the anime. Like, we're talking like ages ago, because it was very 3D looking, and I thought it looked kind of janky. And in the very, very beginning of the first episode, I was reminded of that. But then I think after the first episode, it was just like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, like, it's fine.
Yeah, it just gives an afterthought afterwards.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You're watching it and you're more appreciating like the world building, the characters themselves. Just
And it wasn't laggy or like blocky, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. Like, it's the art style or the animation style.
I mean, Mappa did well again, right?
Yeah, Mappa did good. I love gyozas. I ate gyozas like twice
Yeah.
last 2 weeks.
So
No.
pretty good.
3-4 times.
Pretty good anime to get into, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, okay. I'm eating my words. Like, what is it like?
A whole year later, you're like, I told you should check out Dorohedoro. I was like, I know about it. I'm not interested right now. And then a whole year
Hey,
later,
I said not interested right now, right? To
Yeah.
be fair.
took a whole year, but I'm glad you finally
And you
came to the
binged.
dark side.
You binged all of it. The manga, I mean.
Done, all done with
Yeah.
it.
So I am going to. I did read a couple of volumes ahead already of where the anime season left off, but I'm still at the point where I still feel like they could adapt it, because Will, you've told me that as like a comment multiple times that, oh, Jason, there's no way they can adapt this, or I don't even know how they're going to do that, and I haven't reached that point yet. Let's just say they all came back from a house. That's where I was at.
Yeah, it's later chapters are going to be tough, just because of the fact that it's so chaotic and so messy that if it was to be adapted, there's going to have to be a lot of reimagining and censorship. But look, I think
Censorship already. The anime is pretty bloody.
oh.
Okay.
Keep reading.
All right.
And just in case you guys haven't checked it out yet, or you guys want to rewatch it, it's still on Netflix. So
I
go
mean,
ahead.
it's a Netflix exclusive, so
I mean, yeah, licensed by Netflix. Go ahead, watch it. Don't have Netflix? Get it. It's only $7.99 a month.
so my second show is streamed on Funimation. It is Shimoneta.
Oh, I thought you watched that.
Either I've watched it or I'm rewatching it now at the very
Right.
least.
Right.
And Shimoneta is the English name is Shimoneta : a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist.
Yeah, you guys may or may not have heard of it. If you ever see a picture of like an anime girl wearing like underwear on her head, that's Shimoneta.
Yes. So it takes place in a future Japan where obscenities
Like crude jokes don't exist
or
anymore.
indecency doesn't exist. And every single citizen has these bracelets and bands on that when they see like explicit material or whatever, they get caught. And then there's contrabands. It's essentially Big Brother, like 1984, except with lewd material.
Yeah, the lewd FBI is watching you.
No, there really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Like they the first like 2 minutes of the show is like they infiltrate like some construction site with like these dudes like having bundles of like porn magazines, and they're like, burn the thing to the ground, arrest them, send them to jail. And I'm just like, okay. So it's about this the main male character going to this very, very prestigious sort of like virtuous high school, like the best in the country. And it at the same time talks about a terrorist terrorist in quotes, because this terrorist doesn't really harm people per se, but goes around spreading, for example, like spreading like lewd materials or asking how people copulate. Because apparently, because no one really talks about it and it's all banned, no one has any concept of how babies are made.
Basically, like the world of Shimoneta is like the internet, but with parental locks on it.
All of them.
Yeah.
Like safe search is like on like 3 times off. Like that, no, 3 times off. Like 3 times over.
You want to try and use incognito mode? No. They're still tracking you.
Yeah.
And this is all on Funimation.
Yes.
How many seasons does it have?
1.
Okay.
It's based on a light novel series. I probably won't read the light novel, as I usually never do anyways.
Yeah, I think for us, mostly manga anime. Maybe the occasional visual novel, but for the most part, like it's 99.9% manga and anime.
I have to say, though, we talked about Dead As the other day, and that's the reason why I watch this show, is because it features a yandere that is really good. A really, really good yandere.
I should get into it.
Yep.
I should really get into it.
Like, she is worth the price of admission, on top of just crude jokes everywhere. It reminds me of what's that show? Seto Kaicho Yakunidomo, the student council pervy.
I've heard of that.
So it's on High Dive, so you can watch it on High Dive or Verve.
Mm-hmm.
That show is also just unabashedly like just dirty jokes everywhere. But it's fun, I guess. It's not even like it's lewd. It's not even that. They just talk like I don't know. It's crude, but it's okay. It's pretty good.
It sounds like a fun watch, right?
It's a
Both
fun
of those
watch.
shows.
Both, yeah. But like the student council when the Seto Kaicho is like 2 seasons and 2 movies and stuff. So it's like very long. Whereas Shimoneta is only 1 season. Okay, now comes the big boy. Well, okay, you ready?
Yeah, go for it. What
The show's on Netflix.
Okay.
There's 10 episodes.
Is that a Netflix exclusive?
Yes.
Okay.
There's 10 episodes.
Right. It's not Ultraman, is it?
No.
Because that one has 10 episodes, I think. 1 season, 10 episodes. Okay.
I cried like a baby.
You finally watched Anohana?
No. Can you?
You watched Scum's Wish?
No.
What else can make you cry in 10 episodes?
No, I didn't cry, but a Devilman did.
Wow. Finally.
Yeah.
Finally you started watching Crybaby.
Devilman cry baby, yeah.
And well, you haven't finished it though, right?
No, I have not finished it. To be
Right.
fair,
Right.
I had a lot of other like research stuff to do that. So I watched like a
To be
little
fair,
a
like,
little bit of everything.
Watching 3 mysteries in 2 weeks along with research that's a lot. On your
Well, no,
plate.
but like what I did, to be honest, what I did was the 3-episode rule of each.
Yeah.
Because at first I was ambitious to be like, oh yeah, I'll finish all of it. I'll surprise Will. I'm just gonna be like the best anime researcher on the planet.
Yeah.
And that is still true. Except I was like, oh, my hubris. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, actually, thinking about it now, Anohana has 11 episodes. I was wrong there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Devil May Cry is pretty good. I think it should ramp up quite a bit, not only because it ramps up quite a bit already in the first episode, but I'm waiting for it to go outside the stratosphere. You know what I'm saying?
It is ridiculous.
It is.
Like, if we want to talk about chaos, like, there's definitely a lot of chaos in Dorohedoro, but this is a whole different level.
So when we talked about Dorohedoro and violence, Devil May Cry Baby is even, it's
Balls to the wall.
super, super balls to the wall violent, and it is so bloody in a way that, like, it just doesn't matter anymore that it's bloody.
How did you find the art style?
I like it. It's pretty good. It actually, okay, don't get mad at me, Will. It reminds me of Japan Sinks 2020.
But because it's done by the same studio.
I know, but the art style and everything looks
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
The way that the characters move looks the same. I think there is a rap.
The rap troupe is fucking dope, right? I think it was the first episode they did the rap.
And then they have a rap episode, or like a rap duo in Japan Sinks 2020 as well. So it's just like, is this going to be Japan Sinks 2020? No, right?
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, like, being the studio it is, Science Sario, like, whenever you watch any of their anime, like, they all have like unique character designs, right? Like, for example, like Icecan, Ping Pong the animation, Tatami Galaxy, they all kind of look a little different from like your quote unquote standard anime. So I could imagine like why like there might be some semblance between what you see in Devil May Cry Baby and Japan Sinks 2020.
Yeah. So then,
Even though I'm never gonna finish Japan Sinks.
yeah, it's all right. I mean,
That's dope though. You're watching stuff that I like. Okay, that does that mean now I need to start watching more? Actually, to be fair, I have been watching more and more fluffy stuff.
yeah, you have.
So, let's see what else I'll watch next. I mean, I'm not gonna be watching much of Nagatoro moving forward. So let's see what else I pick up. There's still a season 2 and final season of Fruits Basket that we need to watch.
Yeah, we need to watch Fruits Basket. It's the third season is
Dude,
highly rated right now.
yeah, I mean, like if you look on my anime list for all anime properties, including like TV series, OVAs, movies, shorts, it's ranked 20th overall on every single anime property there is on the database, which is ridiculous. The fact that it's not even finished yet.
Yeah, so I am.
Yeah, but in terms of stuff that we've been watching together, like we'll get to Fruits Basket soon. But we have been watching another show. We actually just watched this episode. This is the series starting today.
Yeah, earlier while we're eating lunch.
Yeah. So the series is called Mashiro no Oto.
Yes,
And it features would you say it's music, right? A music anime or
definitely a music anime.
Right?
The English title is called Those Snow White Notes. It is based on a manga of the same name, and it's about the shamisen.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what a shamisen is, imagine it's kind of like a guitar like slash banjo, like it's actually very insulting to call it that, but like I don't really know how else to describe it. It's a 3-stringed instrument, but instead of using like a pick, like a guitar pick that's like the size of your thumb, you're using like a paddle that's quite big. It's like around the size of like a normal hand, and you use it to pluck against the strings of the shamisen, and it makes a very distinct kind of sharp, but how would you describe it? It's a note that really like punches the air.
Yes, it does.
Because you put quite a lot of force into playing it, but like you play it with such elegance that you're not destroying the strings either.
Yeah, and like I guess the equivalent of the paddle, the guitar pick, is like, what do you call it? It's like a peeler. It looks like the shape of a peeler.
Yes, it's like you use it as like a paint stripper. Like,
yeah, paint stripper. Exactly, paint stripper. So, but What do you think of the first episode?
It was dope. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like blow your mind amazing, but it was just like the fact that like it's a shamisen. You know, it's a show about this musical instrument. But whenever they had those musical performances, like, it was captivating.
It was very captivating.
You would sit down and you would just listen for like 3 minutes. Like most of the time, whenever you're watching a show, like you have music featuring in it, it's usually like a band or like a pop group that's singing, and it like blends into the story, and you have people talking about it. But this one was just straight up like a total of 6 minutes of performance.
No. Well,
It was
they
cool.
did have like a little bit of voiceover, but it
Okay,
was
like 2
very
lines.
it's very
Yeah.
like poetic.
Just basically explaining like the reasons why they picked up the shamisen, what the purpose of playing this music is, and what they aim to achieve with it.
Metaphors
Yeah.
and stuff. It's really good. Yeah. I agree with you, Will, that it is not jaw-droppingly amazing, but it shows a lot of promise for sure.
As a first episode, that was pretty good.
It did end on a very, very weird cliffhanger.
Yeah, it has its moments when it's like it's comedy. So it just drops things on you, and it's not like super out of place. It's not like forced. It kind of blends well with what's happening in the series.
Wait, really? Like on the cliffhanger? I thought that was out of left field, 100%.
I'm sure if we watch the next episode, it'll be explained. But yeah, we'll continue to watch it.
Okay, so I think that covers.
Just in case, it's on Crunchyroll.
Oh yes, it is on Crunchyroll. Yes, that's correct. Airing this season.
So get on it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to watch. Just like how there is a lot of watching, though, there's also a lot of news that we want to bring to you today.
A lot of news.
A lot.
We haven't done news section in quite a bit. We had like little mini news sections here and there.
Yeah,
but...
would you say that we've been starved of anime news?
Fuck off.
All right, so I guess that means that I should bring in this first piece then. So a manga that both Jason and I have been reading, more before Jason, I got into it recently myself for the basically research for this episode's topic. This series is called Starving Anonymous. So it's a show. It's a manga that's it's pretty dark, pretty crazy. It's basically like if I was to say Soylent Green for some fans, you probably get an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all I can really say because anything else afterwards is just spoilers. But within like
Within
half of the first chapter, you already know what's happening.
Yep. Exactly. And then you would know if you like it or not.
Yeah.
Or want to read on or not.
It's gruesome. It's bloody.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm still so fascinated like, when reading manga, the fact that there's the lack of color, but you're still able to see how grim and dark and fucked up the environment is. Just like there's like when you just see black splattered everywhere, it's either just darkness, shadows, or blood, and it's amazing how they're able to combine those three together, and it just makes this really uncomfortable environment that you can't help but feel encapsulated by. And you just want to keep reading more and more and see how deep this fucked up rabbit hole is.
So, what about this manga?
Oh, it's getting a sequel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this manga, the original manga wasn't very long. It was like 7 volumes.
7 volumes.
64 chapters. 60-something chapters.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty good short read. I wouldn't say that it's like it takes a very long time or a short time. It's like I feel it's a good amount. For most people who want to read stuff, that you can probably get that done in a few days. And now it's getting a sequel.
And it's a good length in that it is more than almost the equivalent of one anime season, but it is not too long in that it drags its feet and then potentially loses steam and quality and everything.
Yeah, the thing I usually don't like with manga is once you've gotten to like the climax moment when like you've just unveiled like the biggest twist or the major secret of of what makes the manga great, and they try and drag it out by either like elongating the twist or introducing new characters to put a spin on that twist, then you're just trying to force this to be longer than it really needs to be. Sometimes things just can end the way it is. Just if it's going to end well, end it. Don't try and make it longer than it needs to be. But I understand why people do it. If it means you can sell an extra volume or two and make a little extra money, I'm fine with that.
So, Starving Anonymous is the manga series published by Kodansha in the US, and I think in Japan. And the sequel is they didn't really say much other than bad shit is gonna happen to some people and get ready for it. Basically, if the mangaka wrote another series, I don't think it has an anime series called Fort of Apocalypse, which is about zombies in a prison, surviving a zombie apocalypse in a prison. I haven't seen it yet, but it's there, I guess. So that's Starving Anonymous sequel news.
Yep. So, and then moving on to the world of anime, I think you can take this one because you've actually been reading it and you're more excited about this than I am, even though I'm interested in checking it out.
So, throughout the existence of this podcast, I have expressed that there are certain shows, I think starting from episode 3, that there are certain shows that have no, sorry, not certain shows, certain mangas or have been going on for ages, and it seems that everyone wants an anime out of it and nothing.
Like, you'll always have those lists, whether it's on like My Anime or CBR or Ranker. It's like, oh, top 10 manga that definitely need adaptations, blah 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 blah. I think this is one that's like has consistently been on every single list for the last like 3 years.
I would say even longer, yeah. And then let's see. You kind of got your wish with A Devil's a Part-Timer season 2.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it still got one season.
Yeah.
And then a huge long hiatus, and then the second season.
Well, there was also like the news of Chainsaw Man getting adapted, and that was also featured on a lot of top 10 must get adaptation manga series as well. So another wish came true, though we knew with the success it was going to happen. This, on the other hand, was more a sleeper hit, right? This one just kind of came out.
I think like there was like several surveys even in Japan that ranked top 10 properties that should be adapted, and this is always ranked in the top 10, if not very high in the top 10. And I read the manga. I love it a lot. It is Komi Can't Communicate, and there is an anime season coming out in October 2021.
Yeah. What's Komi Can't Communicate?
It's about a girl called Shoko Komi who can't communicate.
So this is like what, like a high school based like rom-com, high school based like slice of life.
Okay. I was half joking with the description, but it's accurate. So it's about people with Shoko Komi, who's a high school girl, and she on the exterior is very poised, very cool. You know, just seems like a princess, just like very cannot be approached, but like adored by everyone. But in reality, she just wants to be friends with everyone. But she has a communication disorder because she's super shy, and she like has to take forever to think of something to say. And then at that point, everyone is just like, oh, "Okay, I'm just gonna peace out." Like, sorry, I offended you. And she's like, no, I'm not offending you. But like, she's thinking it in her head. So it's just like,
essentially, she comes up as like a hardcore like kudere, right? She's just like basically like not saying anything, and like it's easy to like interpret her exterior as cold and standoffish.
Yeah, or like a dandere kudere combination.
But she's just got social anxieties, right?
Yes, a communication disorder to be precise. And then it just talks about a bunch of people and their different issues, but played it off as a slice of life comedy. And I really, 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 really like it.
No, keep going. Say more reallys.
Really?
Got
it.
Yeah. So I think it aired. No, I think the manga debuted in 2015. So I think it's been 6 years and it's just been running, and now it's finally gotten a studio to produce it.
OLM, which I don't think they've done much.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's this is not to slag off Komi, but it's like, you know, it's not like one of those like major sort of like box office breaking properties. But I think, as far as studios go, I think it's an adequate choice. I think I think they'll do a fine job with Komi Can't Communicate, considering that, you know, the directorial cast looks pretty solid. So I think it's in good hands. So in terms of getting adaptations, I think another show.
Sorry. Sorry to cut you off. Komi is voiced by Kaguya from Kaguya-sama Love is War.
What
And
do you mean voiced?
VA?
Yeah, but like this is a show about a girl who can't communicate.
It's the easiest paycheck in the history of humankind.
But I'm sure that
Also, her voice is really good. But yes, like, everyone, even online on Reddit, everyone's just like, dude, easiest paycheck ever. Her voice, who voices Kaguya, is going to be great, right?
I thought for a minute when you were like saying like, oh, you won't believe who the hell they got for the VA for Komi. I was like, my mom was like, Kanahana? Would it be her? I was like, that's a lot of money to be paying for someone who's not going to be saying anything. But either way, whoever does the job, hopefully they have something to say, or I don't know. It's probably going to be making like ums and ers and shit, right? Whatever.
I don't know.
We'll
I
see.
don't know.
We'll see in October.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. Well,
So this other series, again, I think this is still more you because I haven't actually started watching it myself. But you've been telling me to check out Overlord.
that's correct.
Right.
Overlord is
So-
awesome.
I think for a while, Overlord had all 3 seasons on Netflix, and then when I wanted to start getting into it, they pulled season 1 from it, and then there's only seasons 2 and 3. Usually, I just like watching a lot of my stuff off Netflix anyway, so I just like, okay, well, I guess I'll watch something else for the time being. Now that the time being's gone on, now they've also announced that they've got a 4th season coming out. Not just that, but they also have a film project coming out for it too. So there's quite a lot of things developing for the Overlord series.
Yeah, I really think that Overlord is good fun. I don't think it's exceptional. I think it's guilty pleasure. I think it's just really good. It's just fine. It's just good. I don't know how else to say.
Well, it being like it's not one of those like really hard shows to watch or get into, right? You can probably pick it up, watch an episode or 2, be fine with it, put it down, get back into it again. It's just something to have in like your watch list that you can take your time to watch.
So Overlord is it's essentially an isekai. It's about a guy who is part of this clan inside this online game. And on the last day before the online game server shut down for good, he, just logs on and then falls asleep, only to wake up and become the avatar that he is in the game. And then all of like they have like a, what do you call, like a castle, like a base, and all the NPCs, non-playable characters in the game ends up coming alive.
I know there's a term for it, but it's slipping my mind right now.
What?
No, it's like what you're talking about, like where like they had the main castle. It's kind of like
A base of
like-
operation?
like for example, like if you're talking like World of Warcraft, like
A den?
like Orgrimmar for the Horde and all that.
Oh, home
Yeah, like a home town, home city, whatever it is.
hub?
Yeah, hub. Okay, hub. We'll call it that.
Sure.
So I think if you want just some, it's more comedic than anything, right? So
No, not really. It's not that comedic.
oh really? Okay.
It's just,
Well, if you don't want to have a good time, then watch it then.
oh no, it's a great time. Shut the fuck up, Will.
Okay. I think there is one bit of news that we should get into, but I kind of want to keep it at the ends because there's a lot to unpack from it. So let's talk about Harajuku.
Yeah. What is Harajuku?
Harajuku is a little district in Japan, which is kind of like the artsy fashion district. So you find a lot of shops that sell like high end clothes or different designers featuring their latest designs, new catalogs. There's an anime coming out called Artist Switch, and I think that if we're talking about, it's something that we've wanted to talk about. Right, like we've talked about, like there's music in anime, food in anime, but I think like when it comes to fashion, this looks like something that is pretty interesting to watch, pick apart, and maybe even learn about fashion through an anime.
I mean, they're just like how there's musical animes, there's animes about sports. There are a couple of animes about fashion and clothes in particular. Smile Down the Runway is the one that always comes to mind. But there are a couple of others where, for example, JoJo, I would say, has a really unique fashion sense.
In terms of like the art and fashion world, right? Like the characters themselves are very flamboyant. Character designs are done really, really well, to the point where even like in real life, they've been featured in the Louvre. They've done collaborations with Gucci. It's pretty insane the sort of work that they've been doing. You'll find other like anime series, manga series that do fashion collaborations. I mean, we've talked about like Demon Slayer, we talked about Tokyo Ghoul, talked about Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
So this could be to watch an anime that is not just like collaborating with art and fashion, but is actually about fashion.
A particular Japanese district in Tokyo that really focuses on trendy fashion. And it also reminds me a little bit tangentially, not exactly, but tangentially about Blue Period. And that's like artsy, you meet eccentric characters, it's all about expression, very poignant and sharp color palettes. So it seems like there's a lot of anime recently that's focused on the kind of aesthetics, I guess, of whether it's art, whether it's fashion. And I think we'll check it out. It's premiering at the end of May.
It's very soon.
So yeah, kind of came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is a bit of news that we have to talk about. It's not great, but it's something that we have to address because it kind of shows, like, whilst anime and manga are great, there are also like parts of the industry that makes me feel like we need to do like some proper cleansing. We need to fix certain attitudes within the industry. So one of the most famous, most well known anime series ever is Neon Genesis
Evangelion, yeah. And I watched, it was the second anime I have consumed in my entire life.
Yeah.
I really like the anime series a lot.
I've watched a couple episodes, but I haven't like fully finished it. But it's not too hard to figure out what it is. But of course, like for me to fully appreciate it, I have to watch the whole thing.
And Cruel Angel Thesis being one of the most famous anime openings probably ever.
Like if you were to just do a YouTube search, it's probably like it's got like most of those videos have like hundreds, thousands, millions of views.
Like you say, like Unravel from Tokyo Ghoul is very memorable, which it is.
But also Unravel is the only reason why people watch Tokyo Ghoul in the first place. So,
but I would say,
but like, with Cruel Angel's Thesis though, it's like it's not like you don't watch the anime because of how good the song is, but it's like you don't talk about Evangelion without talking about Cruel Angel's Thesis.
Yes, and the original anime series was ages ago, and then they redid it with a set of movies. I forgot what they called Neon Genesis Evolution, like Neon Genesis remake. It's a remake essentially, and then they retold and added some stuff on top of, making it look very modern. I think Utada Hikaru sang one of the songs, "One Last Kiss."
Her again.
Yeah.
I love her.
So there was, I think, 3 movies that are out, and then there is a 4th and final movie that is in theaters right now in Japan.
Yeah, the whole series of movies is Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time.
No, it was like 1.11, 2.22, and then
but that's why you have 3 movies and then you have one more afterwards.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah. Sorry. So, and then this is like, from what I can tell, this is like the end of Evangelion. As in, after this 4th movie, it's like it's over. It's like it's done.
Like they had a series. Was it a series or a movie called The End of Evangelion?
That was a movie after the original anime series.
Yeah, that's not the end of Evangelion. This, on the other hand, though, right? Like the movie that's come out, this is finito, done.
It seems very definitive. Whether or not they keep
bringing it back.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like you can bring it back. There's always gonna be fans that, like, pine over nostalgia, or just or just in love with the series. That no matter what, they just want more of that stuff.
And the movie is doing extremely well in Japan.
Yeah, it's basically selling very well. Box office wise, it's performing very well. Because there's a lot of fanfare, right? People really like the Evangelion series, but there are also shitheads within the fandom. You know, there are people who, for some reason, just can't be satisfied with what's put in front of them, to the point where, I mean, you can always voice your, you know, your displeasure with something. You can always give something a bad review, right? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But when that opinion becomes so toxic that it actually verges on the point of endangering someone's health and safety, that's when like the line's crossed. The line's always been very thin, but this is a very, very clear line stepping move where you basically send death threats to the company, the people who directed and produced the movies. So I think this is out of line.
So Studio Kara, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Is the studio behind the Evangelion remakes. And they have said that there has been slander, a quote, there has been slander, threats, and comments that suggest criminal intention upon their staff. That is based on their dissatisfaction or based on their fervor with the latest movie, or the final movie, really, that is coming out. I'm sorry, it's out now.
Yeah. I mean, like, we've seen this before, right? I mean, like, we don't have to go that far back. We could talk about, like,
when the Attack on Titan.
When people started sending death threats to, you know, the directors, to MAPPA, about how they were, like, so upset by the 3D CG that they wanted to kill them or tell themselves to kill themselves. But what makes this different from the other time, and I'm sure it's like they've also done the same actions, but it wasn't as public. Studio Cars come out and said that, you know, they'll be filing lawsuits, right? They'll be filing lawsuits, protecting themselves against defamation, against, you know, death threats and other kind of crimes that, you know, endanger their health and safety and their reputation. So they're already like in coordination with the National Police Agency of Japan for domestic cases, and they're also going to be, well, they say they're going to be going to different departments for foreign affairs, because there are going to be complaints that are outside of Japan. So
outside their jurisdiction,
they need to coordinate with those relevant bodies to be able to, you know, follow through with these cases. Whether or not they succeed, I think the most important thing is that this time, like, they're taking a stand against the trolls.
And it has come to this.
It's sad. Like look, there's definitely shows, like for example, like I hate certain shows. I don't like Yasuke, right? But I never want to wish like ill will against anybody that's associated with it.
Look, I don't like It's Too Sick to Call This Love. If you're going back to a previous episode of your dissatisfaction with Yasuke, right?
Yeah.
Like
Koikimo, right?
Koikimo. I am not going to. I stand by what I said, and I 100% believe that it really is not a very good anime series and promotes really bad things. But I'm not gonna like rock up to the studio, or I'm not gonna find out who the director is and, you know, send like the meanest tweet and threaten life upon his family or her family.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I'm not gonna go and like find some database where I can leak someone's information and get them doxxed. I'm not gonna be sending hate mail every time telling them to, you know, harm themselves, kill themselves. It's just not a healthy mindset to have. Like, why do you have so much hate for something that you actually wish for someone to die? You wish for them to off themselves and to make their life hell, like a misery. It's just it's not something that we want to see in the industry. It's going to happen, unfortunately.
and it is obviously not pertains just to anime and manga. It pertains to almost all artistic mediums or
anything in life, really.
Yeah.
There's always going to be, and the sad thing is, it's like it's just small minority we're talking about, but because of the fact of how vocal and loud they are, and how much damage they could potentially do to others.
And what, you're not going to take that threat seriously sometimes? Like, the consequences of that could be dire.
No,
really,
dude. Sometimes just fandoms can be toxic, man. There's going to be toxic fans with any fandom. Just this one, they're taking it several steps too far.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you know, there's toxic JoJo fans, there's toxic Dragon Ball Z fans, there's toxic Naruto fans, but you never really see people get death threats. This time, it's just like, chill the fuck out, guys. Stop it. Like it's not fair for you guys to put someone else's life in danger just because you weren't happy with how a certain show went.
All right. So join us again 3 months from now where we make the exact same statement again, but replace it with a different anime and a different studio.
Yeah, it's an endless cycle. But yeah, we don't want to add fuel to the fire. We don't want to give the haters more attention, right? Just let them do their thing. They can, be keyboard warriors if they want to be. But in the end, like, look,
you reap what you sow.
Yeah,
just don't be a dick.
If you enjoy NGE, like the Neon Genesis Evangelion series, go ahead, watch the movie when it comes out, stream it when it's available, buy the Blu-rays or the box sets when they are available for sale. Like, if you don't like it, fine. I'm sure you can put a customer review on Amazon or like maybe put it on a Crunchyboard roll or a My Anime List forum to voice your concerns. Go on Reddit, shit, just do that. But like, don't go ahead and send hate mail or death threats to the directors because they have no impact whatsoever on your life and vice versa. They're doing their job.
I think it's called parasocial relationship, where it's one way.
Like, you think that like you as a fan or you have so much like say in what that person does that you should be able to tell them to change their ways to improve or like to basically force your will upon them.
Yeah, a lot of Twitch streamers have these problems.
Toxicity, man.
Yeah, man.
It's gross.
It is gross.
Yeah. So we had to end on that, but hopefully it's just a reminder to all. Like, look, there's a lot of good manga and anime. There's also some bad.
Whoa. Komi Can Communicate got an anime adaptation.
Right?
I went ape shit when I found out.
There's going to be like, dude, like, I mean, a couple weeks ago when I found out that the fucking April Fool's joke for the JoJo's Part 6 was actually a joke and it turned to be real, I lost my shit. I can't wait for it to come out. It's going to be a while, but I'm like super
and it leaked.
ecstatic.
The Komi Can Communicate was a leak because they the cover for the manga magazine got leaked, and I said to Will, I was like, oh my fucking god, but I can't. Is this true? It got to be true, right? I gotta wait. I can't say it on the podcast unless if it is real, right? I can't, right?
Yeah, and then it came out officially,
yeah,
right on time. There you go, bringing the news to you straight away.
So yeah, that is it for the front section of the podcast.
Yeah, we've gone through quite a lot in terms of the news, the shows. We're keeping busy, but it's good, right? It just means that there's more shows to watch, there's more manga to pick up. Definitely try to keep the industry, rolling, especially with the effects of COVID still ramping through, just running through every single studio.
I mean, there are several anime movies and several anime series that I know that got delayed. That was announced that they got delayed in the past week or two, but it's too, like, I don't think it was that significant to mention. But yeah, COVID is still doing damage and might still be doing damage in the future. I got my shots.
I got mine too. Yeah, I got mine too. Really shitty day afterwards, but I'm pretty much fully recovered from it. So
yeah, I felt pretty bad day after, but then I was like, literally within 24 hours, I was just like, oh, okay, okay, it felt fine, but that like day was just it was brutal.
I could feel the energy just slowly sapping away from my body, and then just degrading down to the point where I was just straight up just zombie brain.
Yeah, you texted me some messages that were not
sweet,
meant for me.
Super sweet and cuddly.
Yeah, it was very cuddly.
Yeah.
It's like, raw.
Yeah, you want to tell the world what I sent you?
Nope.
No, right?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be taking a quick break, but before we do that, we do have a sponsor for today's episode.
Oh, do we, Will?
Yeah. So if you ever like talked about watching anime and reading manga, sometimes you get a little bit hungry, right? You want to just be able to enjoy, especially if you're watching like a food anime, dude. Like, you put me on like some pretty cool shows. I mean, like, I finally started watching Food Wars. Admittedly, it's good, but when you're watching these shows, you get a little bit hungry. So what do you do in these kind of situations? Well, have you ever heard of the minwbu Human Dropbox? We're going to be sending you food from all around the world to be able to enjoy your manga whilst you have some great food. With just a little bit, just with a little added human touch. warning: if you do find human bones in your human boxes, please don't call back.
Okay, so it's a riff off of Starving Anonymous, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Hey, food tastes good.
Like my hand, I was like
Where am I
3
going with
feet
this?
from the mic, and I was just like, I have to jump back in and clarify.
Otherwise, you're gonna blow the levels, right?
Oh my god. Yeah, sure. Of all the fake sponsors that I came up with, this is the one that you're going with?
Well, hey,
Yeah, okay, well, that's
stick around and you'll find out more in the second half of today's episode.
Jesus.
So we'll go on a break. Go grab some water. If you're off to go take your vaccines, don't look at the needle. And hopefully,
I looked at the needle.
dude, I have no. You're insane for doing that. I fucking hate needles. It took a lot of fucking courage for me to actually end up taking my vaccine. But I'm glad I did it. So you haven't got yours yet? Go get yours. We'll catch you in a couple minutes. So we'll catch you a couple seconds in this episode because we'll be editing it. So we'll catch you very soon.
Yep, see ya.
Welcome back. This is the second part of today's episode of the Good Anime Palette podcast. Hope you guys are, well hydrated, well fed.
Yeah, I ate some Korean food. It was great.
You did find any bones in there?
Nope.
No human bones.
Nope.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your lunch. So, earlier in today's episode, we were talking about on top of the seasonals and the manga that we've been consuming, that we've also been watching and reading a bunch of material for research purposes, in preparation for today's topic. Now, this is a topic that both Jason and I are very, very into because this goes beyond manga and anime. We've been consuming this particular genre in many forms, whether it's graphic novels, whether it's movies, TV shows. We're talking about horror.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I've really wanted to do this episode.
So we really wanted to do this episode for a while, and originally we were like, hey, let's do this during Halloween or month of October, but we couldn't wait.
It's May right now.
Is it the halfway point?
We just have to do it. I think that if we were to wait that much longer, like we're probably just gonna forget. I mean, we probably won't forget, but it's also pretty funny that like if we were to do a Halloween recording, that would have fallen on Halloween itself would have fallen on Halloween would have been the day after one of our recording sessions, so
Right.
It actually would have been perfect timing.
Yeah, but we can always do Halloween Part 2.
And we don't want to keep you guys waiting, right? This is a topic that we've both been very well versed in. We've both consumed a lot. No, actually, we forgot. We even played a lot of horror video games too. So
Exactly.
This is
Yeah.
something that like transcends just purely anime manga. We've been looking into every single medium there is for horror. Now, when it comes to talking about horror, though, it's a pretty hard thing to define because every person's perception and definition of horror is going to be different.
I think that is, if there is any quote-unquote problems or disagreements, it is the first thing, which is the definition of what is horror.
Right. Like if we just go like to any dictionary, right? Like the definition for horror is essentially defined as an intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust.
Webster Dictionary.
Yeah,
Yep.
those are three things right there: fear, shock, and disgust. Now, all three of them could be related to each other in terms of your own eye, your own perception, or all three of them could be separate. Right? Just because you find something disgusting doesn't necessarily mean that you're fearful of it. Just because something makes you like fearful doesn't necessarily put you in shock. It makes you feel uncomfortable, but maybe not to the point where you're saying you're in shock or you're disgusted. So it's hard to define, but we're going to do our best to essentially shine some light on this genre. We both love it, so we're going to have some fun today.
Yeah. some scary fun,
spooky,
like during the summer months. Yeah.
So in terms of, when we're talking about horror, right? Like if you want to just try and boil it down to its most simple form, we're talking about a genre of fiction which is intended to frighten, scare, startle, even disgust the viewer or the reader, and it should try to induce the feelings of horror and terror. Now, of course, it's like, saying horror, the horror genre induces horror, of course, right? Like, what else would it do?
No shit, Sherlock, right?
But then again, it's like when it comes to horror, there's like so many forms of it, right? So there's obviously like very like poignant like visual horror. So like things that are like really violent, bloody, gory. There's some more supernatural horror, which is more sort of like talking about certain deities, maybe ghosts and demons.
And it can also be auditory too.
Yeah.
Which is just like really unsettling, creepy sound effects.
Or the lack of sound.
Which I think is going to be a very interesting point to discuss.
There's also, psychological horror, right? Ways in which it's supposed to, impose the feeling of fear inside your head. But again, like we'll try and break down the psychological genre a little bit more later on, because there's actually quite a lot to unpack there. So horror in its simplest terms, it's supposed to make you scared, right? But like horror doesn't necessarily mean that like it's going to be scary. It might be horrific, right? We might be talking about something that's like, you just saw someone's head explode, or you just saw a monster just decapitate a character in a movie or a show, right? It could look disgusting. It could be shocking, but does it necessarily make you feel scared? Like, not always the case, right? Like when we talk about like, if we were to take it back to like certain video games, right? Like, maybe like the Resident Evil games, like zombie games, when you see people get eaten, or you see like monsters come and chase you, or you see like jump scares. Like for example, like in Dead Space, when a monster just bursts out from a vent, or you open a door and there's a monster right there. Those kinds of visually shocking elements. Are you scared, or are you more just like taken aback because something just literally happened right in front of your face?
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to sometimes to compartmentalize, because the problem, I think, is that one of the issues, I guess, is everyone's tolerance is different for horror. Or just like it is with violence, just like it is with even like fluffiness, comfort food. Some people just don't dig that stuff.
Comedy as well, right? For some
Right.
people might think that it's comedy, quote unquote, is funny. Some people might find that the comedy in a certain series is annoying or bland. It's always in the eye of the beholder. Everyone's going to have different interpretations of whatever they're consuming.
So as a personal experience, growing up in Hong Kong, there were a lot of Japanese, Korean, Thai movies that were very scary to me, and definitely horror movies. I think the two that would probably be three that would probably be very well known, even in the U.S. or in the Western world, is Ju-on, known as The Grudge, Ring, known as The Ringu, and also Dark Water. I think those three originally Japanese movies were immensely scary to me as a kid.
Yeah.
And I still think to this day is still pretty like unsettling and scary. But I distinctly remember other people who said, and I believe them when they do, is that, I watched it. I even watched the Japanese original. I didn't just watch the US remakes of these three movies. And I thought it was stupid. I laughed. And I was like, what? How? But I believe them. Like, no, 100%, like they weren't lying. Or at least I'm pretty convinced that they weren't lying. But it is really in the eye of the beholder, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that in the end, it comes down to your own natural instincts, right? Like how you perceive certain horror elements and whether it's supposed to trigger like fear in you. Some people might look at it, it's like, this just looks really clumsy. This just looks really badly done.
I mean, earlier before the break, we talked about like you're being afraid of needles for your vaccination
Yeah.
shot. To me, as a medical science person, and have like needles because I donate blood and stuff like that, I'm used to needles. So like watching it, looking at it is like no big deal. But I know for a lot of people, a fear of needles is a very legitimate fear.
Yeah, like I think like things don't necessarily have to be scary in order to make you feel scared, right? Like just like how we were talking about how you had people talk to you about like Ringu and Juon, and they're like, "Oh, this is just bad." I laughed because of how like poorly done it was. In some ways, I kind of felt the same with like Western media, but like in a different sense, where like when watch, for example, like the Final Destination series, like the first two, I thought they were great. Then the third one came out, and it was just bloody. It was just gory, just gratuitous violence, just watching like arms and heads explode and people get sliced in half. I thought that shit was hilarious. Like I was never scared at all. Yeah, it was disgusting to watch someone get disemboweled, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I'm so scared because I just saw someone get disemboweled. And more just like, wow, that body just got fucking fucked up. And then like, so then it's like you're trying to push this as a horror movie, like a summer blockbuster, for people to go and watch and piss their pants. But like, I never felt that at all watching the latter Final Destination movies. I thought it was just comical.
I think that, and this is a generalization, an overgeneralization, but it has some truth to it, which is, it seems to me that Western media focuses a lot on the visual and auditory aspect,
right? Like the sharp like violence strikes, the jump scares,
the blood, the gore. But then
like what's on the screen is meant to scare you.
But then I realized that, at least I noticed that a lot of Japanese, Korean, like Asian films, Asian horror movies, of course, they also have their fair share of violence and gore. There's plenty.
A lot.
But there are also a good portion of them where it's what Will referred to earlier as psychological horror, which is it messes with your mind, the way that you perceive reality, the way that even your own personal experiences, and challenges your way of thinking and challenges sort of what you perceive to be right or wrong, good or bad, paranoia, all these feelings that, as you said, causes uneasiness, uncomfortableness that will lead to horror. Because when you realize that something that you believe in or something that you thought was one way ends up being another way, and you add in this unsettling feeling, it could be very horrific for someone.
Yeah. With these kind of like supernatural, psychological kinds of horror movies, mediums, a lot of times like, there's two things we want to talk about here. One of which is immersion, and then through immersion, then we talk about the suspension of disbelief, in which you know full well that you're not going to see floating heads. You're not going to see demons like pop up from the ground up. You're not going to see like ethereal spirits come around and haunt you. You know for a fact that it's not going to be visually real. But because of the way that the cinematography is done, the way that the music is juxtaposed with what's on screen, you are able to put aside that disbelief and just let whatever you're seeing become real. And I think like a lot of Asian horror movies, a lot of Asian horror comics, TV shows, they do it very well.
I also feel that what we alluded to earlier, just 10 minutes ago, which was sometimes having overstimulation is what causes horror. What is what you see with your eyes, what you feel, what you see with what you feel, what you hear, But what happens sometimes can be extremely scary when there is nothing to show. And what I mean by that is, we keep mentioning live action. Well, we'll get to the anime and manga, but the movie David Fincher, Seven, right?
Yeah.
The very famous, what's in the box?
Yeah.
It is literally even if you haven't seen the movie, which we won't spoil it, even though it's been ages ago and you should watch it, it's about a box and what's in a box. But if you were to watch it even all the way up to that point in the movie, it is massively unsettling, scary, like, oh my God, please, no. Is this what I think it is? No, 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 no. But you still want to see it.
Yeah, it's the absence of stimuli, the absence of confirmations. Like, you know full well, based on what you've consumed, what you've just witnessed, that there are, like, it's most likely that thing, but not being able to confirm it right there, like, bruh, it can be really unsettling.
Or like, have you seen 28 Days Later, right?
Yes.
The Danny Boyle movie.
Yeah.
The very beginning of the movie is extremely empty.
It's eerie.
And it's eerie. But because it's empty, it makes you feel very... because your expectation of that environment was it's hustling, it's bustling, it's full of people, full of life, but all of a sudden, there's nothing.
You just see this character walking in the city, and like there's just like cars over the road. You see like empty
newspapers,
shops, maybe like a traffic light just blinking. It's like it just looks like normal life, but there's something missing. There's something that's not there, and you know full well that what it is, but because it's not on the screen, it's fucking terrifying.
Or the final one that I would say is, like a very typical of like either a ghost movie or, any of those scary villains, evil creatures, where you clearly can sense that the entity is behind a certain character, but they don't show it. But you just feel that, like, oh God, everyone is frozen in motion, and if this person were to turn around, he or she would meet face to face with this thing. Or you see like the aftermath of a creature, like rampaging or murdering people, but you don't see them in the act. You see what was left afterwards, and you're just like, in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I see claw marks, so it's probably someone with like sharp talons or claws. Oh my God, like they lifted this up and it's broken, so it should be this strong or this big.
Yeah, it's just like when you're watching anything or playing anything, and you have that one person telling the main character, or even telling like you, if it's like a VR, it's like, whatever you do, run, don't look back. And it's like, okay, don't look back, but I have no idea what's behind me. That's the terrifying. It's like, for me, it's like with the whole needle thing. I'm sorry I had to keep bringing it back.
That's fine.
People were like, it's like, just don't look at the needle. It's like, okay, fine, but if I don't look at the needle, I don't know when it's going to go into my arm, and that is also fucking scary for me too. Right?
Yeah.
So on one hand, okay, I see the needle, I know it's there. That's terrifying. I don't look at the needle, fine. But I also don't know when it's going to go into my arm. That's also terrifying for me.
And that sort of struggle causes terror, shock, and causes, as you would expect, horror.
Yeah. So, going back onto, Asian, or at least specifically within this instance, like Japanese horror, right? Whether it's an anime, manga, live action. When we talk about the kinds of horror, like American is very visual, right? Japanese horror, at least from my experience, I guess from your experience too, it tends to be more on the supernatural, psychological kind of aspect. So more specifically within supernatural, we're talking about like ghosts, demons, or specifically in Japanese, like yokai, yomi, oni. A lot of it comes down to like folklore, comes down to like stories, curses, and it's always like, oh, it's like it's like urban legends. It's like, oh, it's totally not real, blah, 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 and then it happens.
It's like ghost stories.
Mm-hmm. So like I think it's because like for them, they like to juxtapose their idea of hell. Now, Japan itself is not necessarily a very like deeply religious country, but they have a lot of beliefs. They have a lot of customs they follow, and it kind of falls down from like it boils down to like teachings from Shintoism and Buddhism.
It's like philosophy in a sense, way of thinking, way of life.
Yeah, they don't necessarily believe there's like a main like heavenly figure, but it's more like if you do something this way, then you will be treated this way, you'll be rewarded this way. It's kind of like a karma system, essentially. So their idea of of like the afterlife, their idea of hell is very different. Well, at least from the Shinto point of view of what hell is, because for them it's kind of just like it's unclean, it's barren, there's nothing there.
Just for reference, what is Shintoism?
Shintoism, I'm not going to say much about it because I don't really like want to talk about religion that I'm not familiar with, but it's a form of religion.
It's a form of theology. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So if we talk about, however, like Buddhist ideologies of what hell is like, that one would be more like related to what Western hell would be. You know, fire, demons, torture, punishment, and there are like several layers of hell for them too. One of which is like, for example, like they have a layer of hell which is called reviving hell, in which an oni or a demon will beat the living shit out of you and kill you, then revive you and beat you to death again, and repeat that cycle. So for them, like they have like their idea of hell is still very much like a dirty, dark, and disgusting place. A place where it's just like eternal damnation. You will be punished. Your life will be literally a living hell. So that's why when we talk about like at least a lot of the horror that I've watched, like for example, like Mononoke. This is a show that I was watching over the past 2 weeks. It's about like a soothsayer, like a kind of like a demon hunter kind of person, who goes around and essentially deals with supernatural cases. Like, maybe like a person that's missing, or maybe all of a sudden there's like, lots of random deaths in this town. And he has to go around and figure out what's going on. And a lot of times it's tied down to like old Japanese stories, folklore that, for myself, I'm not Japanese. I didn't grow up with it, but because of the way that they tell the story, it's very, very thorough, and you can see why like it makes people feel uncomfortable. There are times when it was a bit scary. There are times it makes you feel uncomfortable. It's deemed horror, and I can see the horror elements. Scary, I wouldn't say it's too scary, but like I think like in terms of trying to utilize the ideas of philosophy, the ideas of using supernatural elements to convey fear, to convey terror, I think it does a pretty good job.
Yeah. I have not seen Mononoke, and just to be clear with everyone, this is not the Studio Ghibli film Princess Mononoke. This is just called Mononoke.
Yeah, just Monomonoke. Mononoke.
Yes.
But I mean there are some horrific elements in Princess Mononoke, but again, that's not a horror movie. We're not talking about this one. Mononoke. Definitely check it out. You got some time. So that's kind of like, at least like my perception of what Japanese horror is. It's more, more theory based. It's more just like literally putting it in your head, like you making yourself feel scared, as opposed to like a Western movie showing you something that's supposed to make you scared.
Right. And of course, there is instances of the other. So there are US, UK, Australian, like Western films that are very psychological, like horror, that it's like not showing you but telling you, or that kind of thing. And there's of course plenty of Japanese, Korean, Asian horror that are very bloody and violent.
Yeah, one example of like a Western psychological horror movie, I would say, is Goodnight Mummy. Which is an Austrian film that came out a couple of years ago, about two kids whose mom has gone off to do reconstructive surgery, and she comes back. But then because of how heavily bandaged she is, she's acting differently. They're like, is this really our mother? And then you start unwinding like the psyche of each character, how they're like dealing with someone who is potentially an unknown. But there's not a lot of like visual stimuli. There's not a lot of like, hey, like, there's a scary moment here, a scary moment there. A lot of times the movie is actually quite silent. It's not a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of music. But it's because of the absence of that stimuli that you're focusing on the psychological elements. So psychological horror, it's not just exclusive to Japan or Asia. You can see it in Western media as well.
So, Will, why do you like horror? A genre?
Because I want to piss my pants.
Okay.
Because I want to shit my britches.
Okay.
No, it's because sometimes like it's gonna sound really fucking sad, but I want to feel something.
Yeah,
that's literally it. It's like something like
I don't think that's a. Yeah. I don't think that's a sad thing to say.
Yeah.
In this context.
Yeah. Well, for example, like why do you watch comedy? You want to feel happy. You want to laugh, right? Why do you watch romance? You want to experience love, not for yourself, but like to see others experience love, and then
Comfiness.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, why do you watch action? Because you want the adrenaline rush. You want to just see people kick the shit out of each other, or you want to just see like why do you want to watch adventure shows?
You want to get hyped. You want to, yeah.
You want to see just like the world unfold in front of you. And in horror, like people are like, you're crazy. Why do you want to feel scared? Why do you want to be like watching something that makes you feel uncomfortable?
That's precisely why I think you as well love horror.
Yeah,
that's what we chase.
Like,
really,
growing up as a kid, I used to play video games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. I would just play them in my room.
Siren
as well.
Yeah,
turn the lights off, just play that shit. It was terrifying, but like it felt so good to get past that extra level, every level, and just like basically see yourself like it's like defeating adversity in a way, right? You're overcoming fear.
You're literally conquering your demons in many ways, right? Isn't that right?
Exactly. Like, look, it might sound crazy to people that like they actually want to be scared to enjoy a movie, but like that's kind of how like
it's like thrill seeking in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't go bungee jumping, but some people really like bungee jumping. Some people really like that adrenaline rush, as you said. Some people like the world building, and the wonders, and stuff like that, So I get that, 100%. I also think that our tolerance for horror is pretty high. I mean, I'm not sure.
Mine's definitely not as high as it used to be.
I think so too.
As a kid, like I was much more fearless. Not to say I didn't enjoy it. It's more just like my acceptance of fear is like way higher, to the point where like I could play video games, I could watch horror movies in the dark on my own with headphones, like really immerse myself in the most disgusting and fearful environment and find enjoyment out of it. Now it's more just like I could watch a horror movie, but I'll be more scared, for sure. No shame in that whatsoever, because I mean that's the intention of watching a horror movie or playing a horror game, right? You're meant to be scared if it's done well, right? And that's one of the issues that we have with a lot of horror genre, the horror genre itself. If we tie it back into like anime and manga, the horror genre, I feel like the horror tag gets thrown around a little too freely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
right? Like, and one of the things we talked about earlier, or at least I talked about, was like psychological thrillers, right? Mysteries. Like, there are a lot of shows, a lot of manga on my anime list that have the horror tag on it, but we don't. You and I can agree, we don't necessarily think that is the right tag to use.
Right, and I think a lot of people tend to misconstrue horror for thriller or for supernatural, and assumes that usually when there is thriller elements, or usually when there's horror elements, or usually when there is supernatural elements, that they all mingle together. And there are those, but there's blood, there's gore, okay, it's horror, that's it. End of story.
Oh, there's ghosts. Oh, there's like crazy curses and like stories of deities like chasing after you, and it's supposed to be like inducing nightmare fuel. That's okay. That's horror. No, not necessarily. Like one show that we both watched, Paranoia Agent, right? Like it's definitely psychological. There's definitely a lot of
that show's fucked.
It's fucked up. It's crazy, and I really like the show.
I really like the show too.
But like, the tags for it are like thriller, psychological, horror.
I agree with the first two, and I think you too as well.
Absolutely, it is a psychothriller,
but horror,
it's really stretching it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also other shows. Say, for example, like Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah.
Right. Again, it's like action, supernatural, thriller, horror,
violence.
Yeah. Like there's like, I think this is something that we've talked about before as well. Things can have horror elements, things can be horrific, but it doesn't mean that it is by definition akin to the horror genre.
Yes. I think another show that I quite liked is Dusk Maiden of Amnesia. And it is supernatural, and people say it's horror. And I watched it, and I have to say, no, it's not horror. It's not, because I have a high tolerance. In fact, if anything, it's a romance. show. But no one believes me unless actually a lot of people don't believe it until they watch it and then they're like, "Yes, Jason, actually you're right. It is a romance show." But they have the horror tag on it just because it's supernatural, there are ghosts involved. But really it's not that scary. Or I don't understand that why it's so easy to just throw on the horror tag as if it is disposable. Like it's an extra thing to tack on just to get a few brownie points. And I'm just like, come on, guys, like, why? And I think there's a lot of huge stigma against horror, and this is not just anime and manga. Pertains just to anime and manga. It pertains to live action. It pertains to graphic novels, comics.
Absolutely.
Where people just don't like horror in general. There is not a wide audience of people who seek out horror movies, who make horror movies, produce horror movies, and have a conception of horror movies as very bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. However, I would say though, like at least this is in the U.S., right? Like every year, like not even around, like, sometimes around Halloween, but like usually, like there's always that big summer blockbuster horror movie.
Saw, man, that's
right?
Saw 19,
right?
whatever.
There's also like there was like so many movies, so many trailers for Don't Breathe. There was like Get Out. To be fair, Get Out, I really liked Get Out.
Us
was okay. I liked it. I like Get Out more.
Would you call Us horror?
That's again like back to what we were discussing. Now I would say Get Out is definitely horror, but Us is more thriller, more psychological. It sure as shit makes you feel uncomfortable, but I was never like scared, right? Like I think that's when people talk about horror movies, and I think like especially like talking about like Saw, talking about like Final Destination, even the Resident Evil movies, like those are defined as horror. But like it's because of the fact that you just see like chainsaws cutting people's heads off, you see people getting like their brains blown out, you see monsters like eating humans, like that's what people would define as horror. And people like watching it. Maybe like for them, like they are genuinely scared. But I feel like for the most part, people like watching it because it's like, oh, that shit was crazy. Did you see that guy's head get blown off? Oh man, you see that like monster eating that person's arm? That was fucking sick. It's like not really appreciating it for the horror elements, more just that like it's like a visual eyegasm for them.
So there are two shows that I think are very good, and they get tagged as horror. But I would honestly say they're neither of them are horror. The first one is Parasite the Maxim.
Fucking fantastic.
It's an awesome anime show. I've not read the manga. Will has read the manga and loved it.
I managed to get the manga. Oh my god, it's so good.
So it is extremely violent, bloody, and it is scary.
Oh man, when I was reading like the manga and like the stills, the panels they had just showing like the parasite attacks, horrifying. Absolutely terrifying, but not horror.
Right. Or at least not what we would define as horror.
Yeah.
Then the second example that I have that I also watch that I really, really like is High School of the Dead.
I should get around to watching
that.
High
School of the Dead is an anime that you can watch on the US Netflix, Hulu, and High Dive. Essentially, it's about zombies invading a high school, and a bunch of high school kids trying to get out alive. And there are zombies, and there's a lot of zombies being, chopped up, killed, and a lot of humans being eaten, killed, and stuff. And it's very bloody. It is not horrific. It's not horror. In fact, if anything, it's quite lewd.
Yeah, I think like whenever like there are compilation clips on YouTube, most of the time it's talk about physics and all that.
There is a scene in High School of the Dead, just to give everyone some idea. There is a scene that involves them going on a highway or like some sort of windy road near the mountain.
Yeah, like an overpass.
Overpass, yes. And there is a scene involving a bunch of people fighting, but among the high school people fighting, there is a sniper rifle involved. And then somehow boobs get involved in the sniper rifle. Like,
It's like the Matrix, but for boobs.
yes. And I
Like bullet time, fucking like bend back and dodge that shit. Hey,
like it's impossible. It's
yeah.
it's also hilarious, and it's also really trashy fun, which I think is High School of the Dead in a nutshell. It is just really fun, but it is just
Not horror.
it's not horror.
Just make sure though, this is High School of the Dead. Don't make the mistake I did and look up High School DxD. Because High School DxD is on Netflix Hong Kong, but they're not the same show.
Yeah. High School DxD is a harem, ecchi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is High School of the Dead like a horror harem or just funny as shit?
There's no harem in it.
Or no horror at all. Well, some might find it horrifying.
There's blood everywhere. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just look. There's going to be people that will come up to me or say that, hey, you said High School of the Dead, you said Dust Made of Amnesia, you said Parasite. That is horror. Not only because people tag it and label it as such, but because that's honestly how I feel. And the best and worst part of that is that you are right and you are wrong at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's okay because everyone's definition is different. Everyone's interpretation of things are different. And that's fine. But in terms of Will and my definition of horror, what I feel is really horror doesn't necessarily have to be about blood and guts and gore and violence. Doesn't necessarily have to be about supernatural ghosts and demons and deities. It could be with those things. But to me, it is the sense that, as Will mentioned, uneasiness, uncomfortableness, anxiety and paranoia, but not to the point where it causes huge amounts of distress. But like enough that it sort of gets me a little bit sweaty, gets my heart racing a bit, kind of like on the edge of my seat. That is how I interpret horror as. And there are some stuff that we will recommend soon in this later on where there's not even blood. There's no blood, not even a single drop of blood. But I would consider extremely horrific.
Yeah, sometimes like some of the scariest things is like imagine like there's a character there and they're just standing in front of a door. There's no sound, no music, and it's just them standing at the door and they slowly reach out towards the door. You're like, oh my god, please don't open that door. Oh my god, what's on your side? Oh my god, please don't die. Please don't get hurt.
I mean, what's in the box, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that absence. It's the fact. It's that curiosity that leads you to be like you want to know, but you're afraid to know what it is.
So, Will, do you think Hellsing Ultimate is horror?
Oh man, Hellsing Ultimate is a great show, but I would not consider that horror.
Is Hellsing Ultimate very bloody?
Yes, absolutely.
Is Hellsing Ultimate very
It's gruesome.
Yeah,
it's aggressive. In all intents and purposes,
bloody.
It's got a lot of horrifying elements. But to say that I was ever uncomfortable or scared watching it, no, I wouldn't say that.
And you can watch Hellsing Ultimate on Netflix.
Yeah. So look, we've talked about how subjective everyone's definition of horror is, but I think we all at least should try to come like to some consensus that the point in horror is to scare you, right? And if the horror doesn't, then
it's to induce a feeling that a lot of people perceive to be as negative emotions.
Yeah, you're not supposed to like feel happy and cheery, rosy after seeing it. You're supposed to be like, I am not okay with seeing this. I am not happy with what I saw. No, not happy. It's we're just like this is making me feel really, really uncomfortable.
But on the same front, that is precisely why Will and I like horror, because not only does it induce a feeling that in other normal circumstances we won't enjoy, we won't like to have feelings of uncomfortable, awkward, uneasiness. But when you are watching a horror show, or a horror, anime series or movie, once it ends, it could still linger with you when you think about it, but then once that's over, it's done.
Oh man,
And you feel like you overcame something, as you say, an adversity. You face your demons, you face your fears, and that accomplishment actually is very enriching.
there's so many there's so many shows, so many books, so many movies and games I've played like from the horror genre that just still stick with me today. Like when I was a kid and for the first time reading The Shining.
Yeah.
Like this day, I've never watched the movie because I still have my own interpretation of the horror elements of the book. To this point where like I can still vividly remember the lines that I read. Like for example, when or like when I was a kid and watching Pan's Labyrinth, or playing the video game Silent Hill, right? There are definitely moments that even though I haven't played, read, or watched these in like the past 15 years, I still remember what made me scared about those shows, about those movies, about those games.
So when it comes to anime and manga of the horror variety, as you would expect, the quantity is actually not a lot.
Yeah,
Which
if we're going to be like very like strict with this, and like we will like take things into our own hands, because for some reason like Dora Hetero is listed as horror, and I would not do that.
Okay, but I would say, even playing devil's advocate, if you include all those things that we said are not horror, but are labeled as horror, even if we include those, let's just say it for argument's sake,
Okay.
the amount of those under the horror umbrella compared to all the different genres are still so small. And then it turns out that through my research, I always thought that initially that, there's going to be horror anime, of course, and it should be good because, there's the visual, there is the audio, there is like the creepiness and everything. But it turns out that there is a lot more good horror manga out there than they are horror anime. And it is unfortunate because I know that a lot of people, at least our audience or the Western audience, do not consume as much manga as they do anime.
Yeah.
So if you want to see horror anime or horror manga, what would you recommend, Will? I mean, I have obviously some that I would recommend right off the bat, but what have you got?
So, I mean, do we want to talk about one that both of us have been loving to death? Like, as much as it's got the word in the title, there actually isn't much of it.
Yeah, boy.
Like, there's so many names. Chino Wadachi, Blood on the Tracks,
or Trail of Blood.
That one.
I think the official English title is Blood on the Tracks, and the Japanese literal translation is Trail of Blood, and obviously the Japanese name Will just said. That this manga, hella scary.
It put us through the ringer, man. Like every chapter we read, we're just like, I am so uncomfortable. I am like, this shit is crazy.
So, Will, what is Blood on the Tracks Trail of Blood about?
So imagine you're growing up in like in a normal family. You've got a loving father and a very loving, caring, but seemingly overprotective mother, to the point where you don't even tie your own shoes. Your mother ties them for you. So your mother does a lot of stuff for you. But there's also like another side to your mother, which you can't quite understand. But hey, she's your mother. You're not going to question things, right? Turns out maybe the mother you've grown up with isn't necessarily the same mother that you've made them out to be. And made them. I think it's made them.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
So they actually have a different persona. The way they interact with other people, the way that they interact with you. Specifically, I'm talking about the main character. Like, is this really your mother? Do you really understand who they are? Do you really know like what their ulterior motive is? And it's crazy to watch and to read this manga, because you keep trying to dive deeper into the minds of the characters, whether it's the central character Seiichi, whether it's about the mother Seiko, or the other characters that are in the manga on the periphery. But the more you try and dive deeper and deeper, the more you start unraveling the madness, the chaos. But it's all in your head.
It's so empty. There is like very little dialogue. The manga panels are huge.
For the fact that it's called Trail of Blood, there's almost no blood in there.
I think in the very beginning there is an unfortunate accident involving an animal, but that's really the extent of the blood.
Yeah. Outside of that, no blood.
There's like zero.
But it's like it does very little to scare you, but the more you read it, you're just like, this is fucking literary genius. This is fucking amazing.
It's awesome.
Like, you don't have to do much to trigger that fight or flight mode in the readers. And every time I've read it, the more I just start trying to understand the characters, I'm just like, I just can't understand them. It just is more and more jumbled, like to the point where like I feel like I'm going crazy reading this shit.
Yeah, like is this really what I think it is? Is this really not what I think it is? What is real? What is not? Like you're starting to lose your mind. Another show that oh no, sorry. Let's just do all the mangas. So, how can we not talk horror mangas and not mention
Mr. Ito,
the Godfather, the granddaddy of horror,
Ito senpai,
Junji Ito.
Right off the top of my head, like he's done a lot of different works, but all of course within the horror genre. For me, like the top three are Uzumaki, Gyo, and Tomie.
I have read Uzumaki. I've watched the live action movie ages ago, and I reread it, Uzumaki, for this episode. So good.
So the thing with this is like, it really like heavily relies on visuals.
Yeah, I cannot explain it to you and have it make sense.
It's the most like when usually when we say disturbing, we're talking like graphic, gory. We're talking like lots of blood and guts and like body dysmorphia and just a lot of body horror stuff. I'm sorry, not body dysmorphia, body horror. That's usually when we say disturbing. This, on the other hand, Junji Ito's idea of disturbing is to create an image that is so jarring and so uncomfortable that it sticks with you. When you finish reading that chapter, you close your eyes and you still see those fucking spirals in Uzumaki. You still see the snails. You still see the fish people in Gyo. It's just a master. He's just a master of knowing how to make people feel uncomfortable and scared.
And there is an announced Uzumaki anime series coming out soon. I don't know when. Look, I think Junji Ito's stuff, unfortunately, when it comes to anime, has gone through the ringer. I mean, what was it recently? Was the Junji Ito story collection that was just... I might as well not mention it, but it's there, and it's shit.
Yeah. Sometimes things are just better, like the way like it's best to consume, right? Like if you want to consume Uzumaki, read it. Same with Gyo, same with Tomie.
I mean, I'm going to give Uzumaki, the anime, whenever it comes out, a shot.
But I'm also scared of what I'm about to see.
My expectations are not high.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think... Another manga series that I like a lot is minwbu. And I think that that's a very unique one because it's coming out this October for Halloween 2021. It's about a high school girl, minwbu, who can see ghosts or monstrosities, really, that no one else can see. It's like, the vision, the ghost vision or whatever you want to call it. And it combines the two weirdest genres mashing together, which is horror and slice of life and a little bit of comedy. Maybe the comedy part is understandable, but the slice of life part is just, you just don't think of, when you think slice of life, you think, comfy, you think cute girls doing cute things, you think wholesomeness. minwbu is none of that, but it is slice of life, I would say. It is, in a very weird, uncomfortable sense, kind of comedic, and it is really good. There's 2 volumes out right now in English, and you should read it and watch it when it comes out in October.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've read a bunch of other quote unquote horror manga, but to be fair, like some of the ones I have read aren't horror.
I
or,
mean,
like,
there was
scary,
Starving Anonymous that we just said.
which I quite like.
It's pretty good.
At the moment, it's not scary, but it's definitely making me feel uncomfortable. I wanted to find out more. I think it's like it's just like dark and disturbing and edgy, right?
Except we have found the ultimate horror anime and manga. It is based on a visual novel. And Will consumed the anime. I read the manga. It is Higurashi.
When they cry.
When They Cry. It is out on Netflix Hong Kong, the first season, right?
Yep.
The Higurashi Go ended last season or 2 seasons ago.
Very recent.
Yeah. And then they announced the next one coming out soon, actually. I think 2021 as well.
Yeah, that whole like series of visual novels, anime, manga, like they've been doing work because I think they also have like the Umineko series, they have the Kakonia series, but for the purpose of because we've watched and read this particular series, Higurashi is pretty damn good.
Very good.
Like when looking up like a lot of like lists about like certain like horror characters, yanderes and stuff like that. A lot of the characters from Higurashi keep showing up. But what put me off wanting to check it out in the first place was just the art style.
It is very early 2000s, 1990s, where like
Almost chibi-esque.
chibi-esque. The eyes are huge.
Their heads
the
are
heads
fucking massive. Their heads are literally the size of their torso. To the point where you're just like, this is just ridiculous. This is just so stupid. Why are they just?
It's like when people think like, oh, this is anime as fuck. This
anime as fuck.
This is anime as fuck. Yeah.
But that aside, I haven't felt this uncomfortable, this terrified watching an anime in a long time. With Higurashi,
I think Higurashi is. If I had to push one anime series to watch, not because Blood on the Tracks or Trail of Blood is so far just a manga series,
but like a very good,
very good. I would push that for like my go-to manga series when I want to, like tell someone to watch, tell someone to read horror manga, horror anime. I would say unequivocally, Higurashi is the queen/king. I don't know. Is it queen? There's a bunch of girls, so queen, right?
It would have to be the queen.
Yeah, the queen of horror anime. Would you? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I think, and like we've been talking about how there aren't many good horror anime and manga, but like let's not like detract any like praise from Higurashi. Higurashi itself stands on its own.
You can watch it on.
It's very good, regardless of it being a horror or just an anime in general. It's good.
You can watch it on High Dive.
Yeah, so there's easy ways for you to get around to watching it,
or Netflix. Sorry,
yeah, Netflix. Yeah, here in Hong Kong, so you can look past the giant heads on the female characters. I'm not particularly impressed with the main male character's voice acting, but
or like the dated visuals, right?
it is old. It was 2004.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's like we're talking like a 17-year-old anime. If you really want something that's even more dated and weird, like, you could play the original visual novel. So I actually downloaded the visual novel or chapter 1 because it was free on Steam. And
wait, it was free on Steam?
It was free. Chapter 1's free.
Okay,
you should check it out. Because just the thing is, they remastered it, so the sprites for the characters are updated to make them look more normal anime.
Normal anime.
Because the in the original it looked very childish, didn't really look that scary. But again, if you look past the character designs, the music, the sound, the way you just hear the crickets just chirping in the background. They use the same cricket chirping in the anime, and like just watching it, even though I know like it's supposed to be scary, like it keeps coming back. It keeps making me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I'm stressed out watching it. But it's like a good stressed out because I'm dying to like see what happens next, and I want to make sure that whoever I'm watching is alive or doesn't get hurt. Just a lot of twists and turns with Higurashi, which makes for a very good show. Horror or not, like if it's not what you're looking for, like I understand, like maybe you don't care about horror. Just watch it for what it is. We're not telling you to go watch and consume horror movies and get scared. Higurashi itself is good, right?
Right. I would also push, if there is a second place, I would push another show that I've watched called Shiki. It's based on a manga of the same name, but I don't think that there is an English release of Shiki, unfortunately. But the anime is both dubbed and subbed, so whichever way you want to consume it, it's freely, could be in dub or sub, and it's available on Crunchyroll and Hulu. It is interesting because it is one of those, it's a horror mystery, and it slowly builds up tension over, it's a slow start, but once it builds up, it goes. And there are expectations and twists and turns that you think is going to happen, and then it doesn't. And then it does. And then it doesn't. Like, guessing back and forth. So it takes place in this rural village in Japan where, let's just say, a family moves in to this huge estate on the top of this rural village. And there is also a mysterious disease that is ravaging the citizens of this rural village, and it's about the doctor and some other, like there's a high school student involved that tries to piece together the mystery. Oh, and there's a priest as well that tries to piece together the mystery behind what is causing this disease, who is this mysterious family, how are they all connected, and there is red herrings and twists and turns everywhere. It's rather old, but oldie but a goodie, 100%. I think another show that, Will, you have definitely read, and I watched a little bit and read some of it, is Another. I think Another, unfortunately, in my opinion, unfortunately, it is the most popular, maybe next to Higurashi, but I would argue it's even more well-known than Higurashi, of the quintessential horror anime in terms of popularity.
I honestly don't understand why. Like, for me, it never was terrifying or horrifying. Even, like, if you talked about, like, the ranking for the show, it doesn't rank very high. It's, like, in the bottom, like, 1500s. But the popularity ranking makes it up in the top 50.
That disparity is insane to me.
And I don't know why. Like, I read it. It's like, okay, there's, like, some crazy, like, visual shit that happens, right? Like, certain death scenes are like, oh, fuck, that's, creepy, edgy, ooh.
Hey,
but,
don't be careful of stairs, right?
Yeah. Don't walk around with an umbrella in your hand, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, look, it's on Netflix. Go ahead and check it out. But I'm not personally recommending it.
Wait, it's on Netflix?
Yeah, I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, it's also on Crunchyroll as well.
Yeah, so like I'm not personally recommending you to watch it or read it to get scared. I'm more just like do it more as a case study. Like, why the hell this is so damn popular? Like, obviously, again, eye of the beholder, subjectivity. What you like is not what I need to like, and vice versa. Obviously, this tickled more people's fancies than mine,
or mine.
But look, if you like it, go ahead, check it out. If you don't like it, let's talk.
If you also think it's scary, that's fine. If you don't think it's scary, let's talk.
Now, there is one show that, like, by definition, it is a horror anime. It's also listed as a horror anime on my anime list. But for you and I, like, it might not be horror, but like it's a show that, like, because we talked about like psycho thrillers, supernatural stuff. Like, unfortunately, the umbrella is so wide that a psycho thriller would also encapsulate some horror elements. Therefore, why not call it horror? You and I both love Shinsekai Yori, right? Like
I knew you'd mention it.
I had to. Much like people say, like, oh, Monster is a horror because it's psychological thriller.
No, it's a thriller, but
But
yes.
like that one, like, it very much hinges on the psycho thriller tag. Whereas like Shinsekai Yuri, you can make an argument that there is like some horror in it.
Oh, 100%, yes.
And like watching it, like, oh man, that house after the canoe
Yo,
ride.
don't. Oh God. And then the village afterwards.
So good, man. I'm glad you put me on it.
And then when they had to travel to a certain place.
Time skips, man.
Time skips, dude.
Yeah, so I think a pretty good list to check out, Shinsekai Yori.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I've been pushing it since the After Dark one. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. From the New World, Shinsekai Yori. 1 season, 26 episodes?
Yeah, you can catch it on Amazon Prime or on Crunchyroll.
Yep. I mean, there are like many other ones that like I would want to talk about, but I think we've covered most of the stuff that I felt like we should say.
Yeah, and to be fair, like if we talked about it, like we can go at length about them, but I think that's just the state of not just horror in manga and anime, but horror in general, right? Like there's a lot of stuff out there, but it's not necessarily done well, or it's not necessarily perceived by the wider audience as horror. It's just that there are scary / horrific elements to it. Like we can talk about stuff like Parasite and Tokyo Ghoul over and over because it's horror. There's like horrific imagery, but it's not horror. It's not scary.
And then because horror is not something that usually is done well, it also then becomes something that is not usually seen as profitable. It's not usually seen as something that is popular. So therefore, there is just not a lot of anime and manga of the horror variety in general.
Yeah, that's why when it's like, if the wider audience doesn't really care about it or you don't subscribe to it, then why do we want to put so much money into making it? Therefore, that detracts from the quality. Therefore, like it just makes it harder for you to find something that's like a hidden gem. You are gonna find stuff. Like we just listed a few, right, for you to check out, but like you really have to search for it.
All right, final thoughts. Will, I'm going to ask you, what about Jujutsu Kaisen?
How the hell is that horror?
I can guarantee you some people would say that.
It's
There. Okay,
I know.
Jujutsu Kaisen has,
ghosts.
and violence and blood, and it's scary, right? There are like some of the people that go through the ringer and get mutilated by these demons.
I think they're talking out of their ass, honestly. But Jujutsu Kaisen is also a fantastic show.
100% fantastic show.
I will watch it, but don't watch it under the pretense that it is a horror anime or a horror manga if you're going to choose to read it. I think like that pretty much sums up like what our thoughts are like for horror manga and anime. It's not a pretty scene right now. In fact, like I don't think there's been really many like recent releases of horror anime and manga that have been setting the world alight. Though Trail of Blood, I can't wait for that shit to start.
Do you think
as if it wasn't crazy enough already?
Yeah.
Like, just keep ramping.
Do you
this shit
think
up.
an anime adaptation is do you think it's possible?
I think it'll be terrible.
Okay, that's what. And okay, that's what
It's
what I was thinking as well.
To go back onto why to this day, like I have read The Shining but have not watched the movie. I don't want my perception of a certain property in someone else's hands and have them define horror to me, right? Like the way that we're watching, the way we're reading Trail of Blood. I have my own interpretations of how the characters sound. I have my own interpretation of how quiet, how silent each panel is. But then if you were to give it to the hands of a studio that has a different perception of horror, or just because there are different people, they'll have different ways of trying to portray something to me. I may end up really hating it, and I don't want that to happen. right? It's much like when people don't want Berserk to be animated, or like it won't be animated because like it's just hard to put that on screen. I think it's in a similar way. It's hard to put Trail of Blood on screen because there are certain elements that can't be replicated from panels onto screen.
I also think that the old version of Berserk was pretty horrific.
Actually, yeah, they actually listed that one on the My Anime List horror tag.
Mm-hmm. I would consider that horrific
Yeah,
and horror,
yeah.
but not. But I would also consider the recent remake also horrific, but
Horrifically bad.
yes,
It's like, holy shit, how the
Yeah.
hell did this happen? So I think
abort,
like,
abort,
yeah.
stop.
Look, I think
Rewind.
I think that the landscape for horror manga and anime, like there's definitely a lot of room for it to grow. But whether or not we have the audience to push for those kinds of properties, those kinds of shows and manga, like, hey, we have to wait and see. I think like people just want to see like a lot of like psychological like thrillers, but that's because it's like, who doesn't like a good psycho thriller? And then through watching that, they'll then tag it as horror. It's easy, it's convenient, it's lazy. I just want something that would literally make me like feel like I'm gonna shit my pants.
And that is the end of our episode.
What
to watch Will shit his pants.
You subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, no, not yet, not
For
yet.
$3 a month, I will shit my pants.
Don't do that.
No, I'm not shitting my pants.
Not here, at least.
Yeah, but I am going to be shitting my pants for like waiting for the next episode to come out. Unfortunately, time is up. I think that this was a good episode to talk about, a genre that we like, dive deep into it, and yeah, we can't wait to get back into the group of things and bring another episode to you.
Right. So, some housekeeping. You could reach us through our email at gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE@gmail.com. You can reach us through Twitter at PaletteGood, capital P, capital G, or through our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/palettegood, all one word, capital P, capital G. You can visit our website, www.goodanimepalette.com, all one word. You can join us on Discord. Please send us an indication that you want to join our Discord server. We've had, like a couple of people join our Discord server. Discord server.
It's been cool.
It's
been fun.
been nice hanging out with these listeners. Shout outs to them. I also you can join our My Anime List Mal Club. You just follow the links or send us an email, and we will add you to our My Anime List Club. Our music credits. Our intro music is Green Lights by Jahzzar. Our break music is Min 2019 by minwbu. Our outro music is What You Thinking, the instrumental version by Wataboy. You could find our intro music at thefreemusicarchive.org, and you can find our break and outro music at pixabay.com. Will,
the future of horror, anime, and manga is it's uncertain. I think like we're starting to see more and more like manga that's like testing the waters and like trying to bring more psychological, supernatural elements to induce fear and horror. But whether or not those will get successful adaptations, that's the big question.
I think so as well. I also think that manga is an easier barrier for a lot of horror genres to call their home, rather than an anime production of a horror genre, because it's just more expensive to do an anime.
It's safer, I think, to do a horror manga than to do a horror anime.
And plus, there's like a bunch of stuff that you can theoretically do with a horror manga that you would be harder pressed to do when it comes an anime.
I will say this as the final notes of this episode, at least from me. We've had some really good anime originals in the past 3 seasons, right? Akudama Drive, Wonder Egg, and this season, VV.
Yeah.
Dear anime studios, whoever is deciding to roll out their next sleeper hit anime original, please make it a horror. If you are able to make, okay, dude, fucking Mappa Okay, Mappa, Cloverworks, A1 Pictures. Fuck, Pierrot, Studio Pierrot. If you're hearing this, please, if you want to be back in my good graces, make a horror anime original. Make it good.
Okay, technically Higurashi is airing in.
Yeah, but that's not an anime original.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, do it like Akudama. Do it like Wonder Egg. Just drop that shit out of nowhere and surprise the fuck out of me.
I'm trying to go through the seasonal stuff for summer and trying to find a horror. Not horrific though. Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll find something. But yeah, thanks very much for listening to this episode. Hopefully you do check out some of the things that we recommended, or if you do have an anime or manga that you find to be quite horrifying and you want to share with us, hey, just link it to us on the Discord, send us a tweet, like just let us know,
or email us. Yeah,
we'd be more than happy to check it out and get back to you on one of the future episodes once we get around to watching it. Just make sure it's readily available. We don't want to have to go through illegal streams.
Yeah. Why would we ever want to go through illegal streams?
So I mean, like, don't link us any illegal stuff.
Oh yeah, like nah. Don't.
Just if it's a Crunchyroll, if it's like U.S. server or Japanese server, just let us know.
Look, if you can access through a VPN, we're all good,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. If you say it's on U.S. Netflix, but we're in Hong Kong, it's fine.
Or you can mail us a box set and we can check it out ourselves. Actually, do you have a DVD player?
No.
Like
Actually, I do.
Oh, I can put it on my PS4 because it has a disc drive. Our laptops don't have disc drives anymore.
Yeah, I know.
All right,
that's weird.
You have any final thoughts? Anything you want to sign off with?
Check us out in October when we talk about a bunch of shows like Miruka-chan that will come out.
Publishers, anime studios. Y'all have 5 months.
Yeah, exactly, right? Hey, they usually don't announce... They sometimes even announce stuff like 2 weeks before the season starts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, y'all better get your shit together and give us some horror stuff. Not horrifically bad stuff.
Yeah.
Just...
Get your shit together so I can shit my pants.
And then will send it to...
I'll send it to Studio Pierrot after they make like a fucking like amazing horror original, and they'll be like, "Thank you for making me shit my pants. Here's the evidence."
All right, guys.
I'm not sending you a box of shit, Pierrot. Okay, I'm not fucking doing that.
You're not sending anybody anything.
No, I'm not. Especially when it comes to shit, I'm not doing that at all.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to peace out. What about you?
Thanks very much for listening. You guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch you soon in our next episode.
See ya.